Last year I get a phone call from my friend saying, hey, you're never going to believe what happened. All right, what happened? In Florida, it's usually something happened with the weather. We came home from shopping, and there were 6 police cars outside so-and-so's house. Is everything okay? No, she's dead. What do you mean she's dead? Who's dead? The wife. What do you mean she's dead? Tell me what happened. Well, I don't know. We just know that there was gunshot. Well, how many shots were fired? Apparently 2. They're ruling it a suicide. Where was she shot? The head. She fired off 2 shots, one landed in her head and it's a suicide? Yeah. Where is the police now? They've left. Is there crime scene tape up at the house? No. Where's the husband? We don't know. Where are the kids? We don't know. Have any of the police ever come to the neighborhood before? Well, yeah. How many times have the police been to the neighborhood? Well, in this year we counted 5 times that we knew about. 5 times? 5 times, and you never told me once that the police have been to this house 5 times, and all the times that I'm down there, you've never mentioned this to me? Well, what would you have done? I could have talked to her. I could have helped. I could have given her information. I could have found resources. I've got contacts all over the United States. I could have hooked her up. I could have gotten these kids somewhere safe. Why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you do anything? We didn't want to get involved. What do you mean you didn't want to get involved? This is your neighborhood. You're in a gated community. You talk about your gated community all the time. You didn't want to get involved. You have homeowners associations about your gated community. You were up in arms that a rehab facility was going to go in 2 blocks from your gated community, but you didn't want to get involved here? Well, you know, really, in those types of situations, really, what can you do about them? Be a support system for her. Let her know she has options. Let her know that you're going to be there for her at 2 in the morning when she's getting beaten up and needs a safe place to go to. That's what you do. They're now talking about it in the neighborhood. And what they're talking about is, who do you think's going to buy that house? Fortunately, they're maintaining the lawn. Because, you know, we'd have to send a letter. Who would we send the letter to? That's your freaking concern, is the lawn maintenance? This is a really good person. I know this person, okay? This person is a person with good, caring values. This is a person who donates a lot of money to a lot of organizations, but didn't want to be bothered with what was going on in their own neighborhood. And when I continued to pry and get more information, well, we did see her with bruises a lot of times. She did have a cast on her arm a couple of times, and it gets even better. The neighbor down the street who works at the hospital saw her several times at the hospital. And nobody wanted to do anything because we're supposed to mind our own business. And it doesn't happen in my house. And what goes behind closed doors is a private event, and I shouldn't really get involved in it. And that's the mentality that is still with us, no matter what neighborhood you're in, no matter what economic group you come from, because we don't talk enough about domestic violence, and we are not educated enough as to the resources, and we're not educated enough as to what we can do to help somebody in that situation. One of the things that I kind of got a little hopeful, and when you do this kind of work day in and day out, you kind of see things as pluses and minuses and kind of opportunities to really kind of educate people. Last May, how many of you recall Yardley Smith, the student at UVA? That story gained national attention. I mean, you couldn't turn on any news channel and not hear about this story. And I looked at that as, wow, we finally have a beautiful girl, smart girl, good upbringing, good values, and a batterer who has a good family, economics, smart, a prestigious college. Wow, we're going to be able to ride this campaign, and we're going to draw attention to this, and we're really going to let people know about teen violence, and we're going to let people know what they can do to get resources. That story lasted, what, maybe 2 weeks? A year prior to that, Siobhan Russell, a 19-year-old girl resident in Chantilly, Virginia, was murdered by her 17-year-old boyfriend, stabbed multiple times in his house while his grandparents and father were upstairs and didn't hear anything. How many of us heard anything about that story? When I had to meet with the Russells and hear the entire history of that case, I was beside myself, because this was a person who had done a stint in Dominion Hospital. He was a person who was known to law enforcement, and he and his dad had beaten up a boy who had just talked to Siobhan and was trying to be her friend. This was a case where friends of the defendant heard him talk about how he was going to kill her and were too scared to say anything or to do anything. All of Siobhan's friends saw bruises on her and thought something was going on, but were too scared to talk to her about it. This was a girl who was a good student, a happy student, who quickly turned depressed, anxious, and wanting to drop out of school because of what had happened in the relationship, and had supportive parents who found themselves between a rock and a hard place of, my child wants to be with this person, we don't want to lose our child, what can we do? And their thanks to me was, we didn't know where to turn to at that time. And now they have made it a point to start educating other parents about where to go get help and where to go get resources and what to do. That's scary. But Siobhan wasn't, as pretty as Yardley Smith, and didn't come from quite the background of Yardley Smith, so she didn't get the press that she needed to get to help other girls here in Fairfax. That's sad. That's wrong. Why are we not talking about this? Why are we not more informed? Why do we not know about the support resources that are out there? What can we do as a group of caring individuals to help people who are in this situation? All of us here came out today for a reason. All of us can leave here today wanting to get more educated about domestic violence. And here's another part. When you look at technology, I did a search on the internet. I wanted to pull up the state of Virginia's domestic violence and sexual violence annual report. Every year, the Attorney General does this report, and it's very informative. It's really bulky, but it's really informative, and it has really good information, really good stats. It has all of the funding that's been given out for domestic violence, grant programs, and everything like that, and just campaigns, and just everything that's going on. And just, if you really are truly interested in this, I would really suggest pulling it up off of the websites so that you can get yourself educated, learn about these different organizations, and learn about what you can do. So when I typed in domestic violence on Google, one of the largest search engines, I came up with roughly 12 million searches. Okay. All right. I typed in Britney Spears, just on a hunch, just wanted to kind of see something. Over 99 million sites to go to for Britney Spears. Okay. Then we're getting kind of agitated by this, that there's more information about Britney Spears and whether or not she wears underwear or doesn't wear underwear than domestic violence and domestic violence support resources. I started just typing in some other random things. And using some of, I don't know if any of you are familiar with MTV's this horrific show, The Jersey Shore, and some of the characters, and just started to type in some of the characters from that show. And they were getting quite a lot of hits. Not quite as many as domestic violence, but several. And I went home and was talking with my husband. I'm like, why does Britney get more hits than domestic violence? It's like, because as a society, we care more about what the celebrities are doing than what's going on and helping people. And I'm just like, you're right. That pains me that you are right, but that's wrong. That's so wrong. And I just urge everybody in here to do something, to speak up, to get it. When was the last time you heard a politician really sincerely talk about domestic violence and what they were going to do to improve sentencing and punishing for offenders of domestic violence? I listened every single time, and that's something that every time I look when a politician is running, well, what are you doing? I actually had a politician come to my door one day. Poor guy, he never came back. So he was already in office. And he comes to my door, and I'm like, this is wonderful. I believe in grassroots politics. Thank you so much for getting out among your voting peers. I appreciate this. So, what do you do about domestic violence? What do you mean? What's your take on domestic violence here in the county of Fairfax? What's your take? Well, it's bad. All right, I'm working with it. And I said, well, are you aware that in Fairfax County, not every case of domestic assault and battery is actually tried by a prosecutor? What do you mean? I mean, when a person is arrested for domestic assault and battery, that victim may have to go into court and try his or her own case. If the defendant comes into court without an attorney, they're going to have to try his or her own case. Well, that must be kind of hard to do. I've seen it. It's not pretty. You're right. And I said, and as an attorney, I can represent them civilly, but I can't go in there and represent them criminally. I can't do anything. Wow. And I said, and are you aware that with domestic violence protective orders, I said, they're only good for 2 years. And I said, and it's very hard to get them renewed unless there's been a violation. No. Are you aware that with stalking, in order to get a stalking protective order, you need to have a warrant for stalking or serious bodily injury? No, I wasn't aware of that. Are you aware that judges don't always give out protective orders unless there's really good hard evidence like pictures and police reports? No, I wasn't aware of that. Are you aware that many victims don't go to the police because they're too scared or too shameful to go there and there'll never be a police report generated? No, I wasn't aware of that. Let me give you some support, some organizations that you can contact to get some more information. And let's make this part of your platform. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to meet with you again. And I can put you in touch with different people. And you might want to talk to Judge so-and-so, and you might want to talk to Judge so-and-so. Exactly. And I was very nice to him. I invited him into my house. I gave him bottled water. My son drew him a picture. We were all there. And again, when my husband came home, I was like, how was your day? Like, oh, you might need to move, honey. This time, here's what I did. So, I mean, that's just one way about just trying to grab somebody's ear who's there and can actually make change happen and educating them. As I said from the beginning, Fairfax has made tremendous improvements since I first started. When I first started here in Fairfax, there were not police officers assigned to the domestic violence cases. We now have domestic violence detectives in all of the substations. That is a huge, huge victory. Because what happens is that when there's a 911 phone call and police go to the house, the responding officers then give that case to the domestic violence detective, who then follows up and will bring a camera. We'll talk to them. We'll let them know about support resources here in the county. Will help them with understanding the criminal process about their case. Can put them in touch with different support organizations that can then help them find legal representation. That's huge. One of the other things that's really kind of cool in Fairfax is that we got to be a pilot program for the ICANN program. How many people are familiar with ICANN? Okay, again,